Hey, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm joined today by my colleague JM, and today we're discussing the financial services data imperative. So in the current landscape, data is no longer just a byproduct of your business. It's the engine. But for many financial institutions, that engine is being throttled by legacy architectures and a backup-only approach. Today, we're going to talk about how financial service organizations can pivot from simply protecting data to making it a resilient, compliant, and AI-ready asset. So, as we continue along, we're going to keep us on track for our hour together to break this session into four key segments. After a brief intro to the Otis of a platform, we'll spend the core of our time on the four pillars of the data imperative found in the financial services industry: operational resilience, security and sovereignty, compliance, and finally, AI readiness. We'll save about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for any of your questions, so please make sure to drop those in the chat as we continue along.
Okay, so Odaseva was born out of a necessity for enterprise-grade data management within the Salesforce ecosystem. We started with backup, expanded with sandbox seeding and archiving, and now we provide a complete enterprise data platform designed specifically for the world's most heavily regulated industries. Our DNA is based on the idea that high-scale, high-complexity environments require a different level of rigor than what standard data security and management tools can provide. And guess what? The result is that financial services industry is our number one market. But let's peel back the curtain on the platform itself. When we say enterprise data platform, we are not just talking about a suite of tools. This is rather a multi-layered architecture designed to solve the data gravity problem at scale. As a backbone, you see our stateless and immutable infrastructure. And this is the major differentiator. It means your data is never stored in a way that can be modified or overwritten by a malicious actor. And it also means high-end scalability, high availability, worldwide residency, and also AI and analytics readiness. Moving outwards, notice the no-view provider status. In a world of banking, this is your insurance for security audits. We provide the SaaS platform, but you hold the encryption keys. We can search millions of records per second across your entire story, not just data, not just what's the data that's currently live in your Salesforce instance. Whether you're looking at data at rest, at data in transit, at data in your lakehouse, or data being masked for sandbox, it's all governed by a single unified security policy. It's the difference between having 5 distinct tools for 5 different tasks and having one single source of truth for your entire data landscape.
So, why is there a data imperative now for the financial services industry? Well, let's look at these numbers. Number one, regulators are constantly raising the bar for data sovereignty and compliance, and they just aren't giving warnings anymore. In fact, last year they handed out over $19 billion in fines. Now, simultaneously, that cyber threat landscape has evolved. Ransomware isn't just about locking you out, it's about data exfiltration and corruption. And cyber criminals are now scaling the impact of their actions by targeting the most sophisticated and popular SaaS applications, such as Salesforce. Now, innovation requires agility, but data is often stuck in silos and not operating at the speed of the business, which is negatively impacting time to market and the overall cost of operations. And finally, there's the AI gap. Most firms want to innovate, but 88% of AI projects are hitting a wall just because of that underlying data is being fragmented or stale or non-compliant. In reality, you can't build a penthouse on a shaky foundation. So, to address the unique requirements of the financial services industry, Otis Seva has aligned our platform across four strategic pillars. The first one being operational resilience. This is all about staying online and compliant with mandates like DORA. Security is our second one, and that's all about protecting against malicious or unintentional data losses and moving to a zero trust model for storing or even moving that data between third-party providers. Compliance is all about automating the messy reality of global privacy laws, and AI readiness is about moving your data from silos into a state where it can actually power predictive models and LLMs.
So, John, let's start with resilience, which has recently undergone a fundamental shift in the eyes of the financial regulators. Backup used to be considered as a check the box exercise for IT admins. But now, with DORA in EU, with CPS 2030 in New Zealand and Australia, and the FCA and PERA mandates in UK, it has moved into the boardroom. Regulators are no longer asking if you have a backup strategy. They are asking to prove how quickly you'll be back in business in case of a major data loss or if your cloud provider is targeted by a cyber attack. And for financial company running on Salesforce, we see five key rules to compliant backup. The first one is data independence, and is about logical and physical segregation. If your production data and your backup data sits on the same underlying infrastructure, you have a single point of failure. And we help you to decouple that. We provide the air gap that regulator demands, ensuring that even if your primary SaaS environment is compromised or unavailable, your business critical data is maintained and maybe more importantly, instantly ready for restoration. The second rule is third-party risk oversights, and it means that you must manage the risk from your vendor's dependency and consider the entire SaaS supply chain as your extended attack surface. Data accountability means that you are responsible for SaaS data resilience based on a shared responsibility model. And there's restore readiness, which means that backupping your data isn't good enough. You need to enforce restorability with auditable proof that can guarantee that your backup can be restored with the lost data and metadata. And you are mandated for that to run periodical resilience testing of your disaster recovery plan to validate adherence to your recovery time objective. So to address that, our solution is engineered to move beyond simple backup to compliant operational resilience, addressing the five key rules that I just presented. First, we deliver a robust data protection foundation with an air-gapped, independent infrastructure outside of the Salesforce cloud. Crucially, we deliver an RPO as low as 5 minutes at enterprise scales, ensuring minimal data loss, even for the largest financial environments. Second, we eliminate data loss blind spots, and this addresses the requirement for restore readiness. We provide auditable proofs that your backup are viable and restorable, transforming disaster recovery planning into a proven and verified capability. Furthermore, we eliminate the friction of hitting Salesforce API limit by using our own high-speed transport layer, ensuring proactive failure detection and also continuity. And last, we guarantee a fast, complete, and effortless restore. Our specialized recovery process is streamlined for complex issues and complex losses, ensuring that you are back in operation in a matter of minutes and that you'll be meeting your expected recovery time objectives. Through our data reverse capability, we also support delegated surgical self-service recovery, putting the control back into the hands of the specific business or IT users who need it without relying on central team. To put this into perspective, let's look at a leading bank in the APAC region. When they first came to us, their data backup maturity for Salesforce and Encino was really nascent. They needed to raise the bar and anticipate the upcoming regulation. In their country, it's CPS 2030. Their existing process and tools simply couldn't meet those kind of goals. We didn't just give them software. They were rather looking for a trusted advisor to build their resilience framework. So we helped them automate the backup and restore and the related readiness tests. So instead of hoping that their recovery would work, they could ensure that it does work with auditable proof. They moved from a state of anxiety to operational resilience leadership. And now they are best in class for how a bank should handle operational resilience with Salesforce.
Yeah, so we've spent some time on operational resilience. So now let's pivot to security and sovereignty and keeping the cyber criminals out of your critical data. Now, when you move your core banking or insurance operations to a major SaaS platform like Salesforce, ultimately you're entrusting your most valuable asset, your customer data, to a third-party vault. Now, that critical question is, who holds the master key? In traditional SaaS setup, the provider or even the third-party vendor might hold the key to your encrypted data. Now, this ultimately presents two major risks specific to the Salesforce ecosystem. First and foremost, sovereignty risk. If your cloud provider is breached or a government subpoenas them, your data might be compromised without your direct consent. And supply chain risk. If your backup or data management vendor is not a no-view provider, they can see your unencrypted data, creating a single point of failure if they are compromised. At Otiseva, we believe that in the Salesforce ecosystem, you, as a financial institution, should be the only one holding the keys. True sovereignty means that even though your data lives in the cloud, for scale and agility, the encryption keys, the storage location, and the access logs stay exclusively in your hands. We ensure a zero trust posture, giving you control and ultimately helping you comply with multiple local and global regulations. Now, the recent surge of Salesforce breaches have turned into a wake-up call for security leaders about the new risks in the SaaS ecosystem. The attack surface has fundamentally shifted. It's no longer just about outside hackers, but rather about privileged user abuse and third-party vendor risk. If your backup or data management vendor can see your data in their own cloud, you've just added a massive point of failure. If that vendor is compromised, your customer data is also compromised. Here at Otiseva, we believe in sovereignty. You should own your data, your encryption keys, and be able to choose your storage location at all times. What we've also found is that financial service organizations require extreme data agility to manage complex, multi-org landscapes and comply with tightening data sovereignty laws. They're constantly dealing with mergers and acquisitions, reorgs, and tightening data sovereignty laws, which requires them to think global and act local. They need a strategy to manage complex multi-org environments and even move their most sensitive data out of Salesforce into a secured vault, while still allowing authorized users to access it. So how does Otisova solve this? Ultimately, we are doing this through our zero trust architecture. With Otiseva Vault, your most sensitive data, such as your PII and financial records, stored in an encrypted vault where even Otiseva employees cannot see it. With Zero Trust Connect, we use a secure proxy for all APIs, ensuring that your data in transit is encrypted. And with data encryption, we offer ultra-sensitive, granular data shielding and sovereign control, ensuring that your most sensitive fields and records can be segregated on an air-gapped vault. Finally, we enable seamless data portability for control and agility. We automate org migrations while giving you a single pane of glass to view and manage your complex multiple org landscape. Now, this allows you to ultimately unlock data movement across orgs, which is going to be critical for those mergers, acquisitions, business reorgs, or even a compliant migration.
Let's jump to data compliance. It has become a balancing act for financial services companies. So on one hand, you have general privacy laws like GDPR, CCPA, etc., and they tell you that the data must be stored for the shortest time possible, and they are mandating you to enforce the right to be forgotten on customer requests. On the other hand, you have financial regulations such as SEC or FINRA, and they are requiring for 7, 10, or even 15 years of data retention. If you try to manage this inside Salesforce, you'll hit a wall. Your storage costs will skyrocket and your system performance will tank. Most firms end up over-retaining because they are too afraid to delete anything. And this creates a massive legal liability, this creates a data quality nightmare, and this creates a technical debt. So we see 5 rules for lean data lifecycle management. Rule 1 is data minimization, and it's about establishing privacy by design across operations, analytics, and sandbox to ensure that the information is accurate and only kept when necessary. Immutable record keeping allows you to maintain a complete, accurate, queryable view of your financial records to support compliance, legal inquiries, and inform business decisions. Data integrity preservation ensure, for example, that all associated contacts and transaction history are grouped with their parent accounts as part of an archive or a purge to ensure that the database remains auditable and usable over time. The fourth rule is long-term audit traceability. It's about maintaining a history of every field change. To optimize performance while maintaining accessibility, this trail must be independent of Salesforce. And then last not but least, we hear a lot about legal hold process in your industry. It's about preserving all form of potential relevant information and ensure that e-discovery can happen when a litigation is pending or anticipated. So how Odaceva addresses this life cycle? So we bring archiving, privacy management, and data traceability. Data archiving, it's about automating archiving policies for long-term retention while offloading inactive data from Salesforce. For that, we automate the data movement to our independent, highly secure vaults, where the data remains protected and audit ready. And it can be also quickly surfaced directly in the Salesforce UI and restored whenever needed. Not only does this accelerate and also simplify the e-discovery requests, but it also helps to transform historical data into an accessible, compliant asset that can be reused to fuel your analytics and agentic AI initiatives. Data privacy is another component helping to automate data subject requests at scale and eliminate or mask data when the retention period has expired. Through our data masking and sandbox seeding capabilities, we secure DevOps and analytic and AI landscape by anonymizing data across those environments. And finally, we ensure long-term audit traceability by maintaining a complete field change history for up to 10 years, which is crucial for SOX compliance and internal audits. Our platform allows you to search and even roll back changes across historical transactions and explore this complete data history directly through CRM analytics. This gives you full forensic capability without impacting your live Salesforce performance. So how companies are using this? Let's take this first example in data archiving. In the FinServ sector, the data growth can be exponential, and in this case of this real estate company, the customer data was growing 15% year over year. They were quickly hitting Salesforce governance limits, and this started affecting their agent productivity. Searches became slower, and reports were timing out. By implementing automatic archiving, we move millions of sophisticated historical records out of their live environments. So for the agents, the archived record remained accessible through the Salesforce UI. There was no change for them. They didn't even know that the data has been moved. They just noticed that the system was faster. But for IT, this resulted in a leaner Salesforce, and this reduced their storage costs, their technical debt, and it helped them unlock archive data for legal matters like e-discovery and also analytics. Let's consider this second example. It's a globally systematically important bank in a EU. And their challenge was the sheer scale of their data landscape. It's about managing 20 million of customers and meeting compliance mandates such as record keeping or the GDPR right to forgotten. And this cannot be a manual task. It's a data engineering challenge. The pain came when internal audits identified gaps in their data lifecycle management approach. They know they had to find better way to enforce data retention and historical tracking policies. Because they had huge data volumes, keeping years of customer data history within Salesforce, it was not an option. They had to do something, and they needed a solution that were able to keep the data history out of Salesforce while still allowing authorized users to access it through Salesforce UI. In addition, they needed to preserve certain data records under a legal hold status, where under this condition, the record has to be immutable. And last but not least, they automated the GDPR right to be forgotten request, allowing to either delete or anonymize customer data on data subject requests or after 10-year retention period. And for that, they also wanted to have a safety period of 30 days where the deleted data can still be recovered from backup in case of urgency.
Wow. I mean, that was an amazing use case. And now let's move on to the last pillar for financial service operational excellence, and that's AI readiness. I think we can all agree and acknowledging that the race for agentic AI is on, and the use cases in financial services are known, whether it's customer support to next best action, real-time fraud detection, or even automated claims management. Lots of investments have been dedicated to modernize the IT foundations. It starts with the core operational backbone using Salesforce, ServiceNow, Encino, etc. Now, on the data side, things like Snowflake, Databricks, BigQuery, Redshift, and other modern platforms have been widely adopted in financial services industry. And now more than ever, we see the rapid rise of AI platforms as well. I mean, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, Agentforce, you name it, it's out there. But now, that critical bottleneck is connecting the dots between each of those foundations in a cost-effective, open, and most importantly, secured way. This is because agentic AI is only as good as the enterprise data that fuels it for context and needs to operate at such speed and scale that a single error or attack can corrupt thousands of records in just seconds. That's where Otis 7 bridges the gap, ensuring that data required for AI is accessible in near real time, secured under a zero trust model, and can be anonymized for compliance and ultimately unified for optimal performance, transforming siloed data into liquid, AI-ready assets. Now, our data management mission at Otiseva is ultimately to unlock customer data for AI and analytics with a platform that addresses the core frictions stalling AI projects: speed, cost, security, and complexity. So what we're doing is providing near real-time access to your Salesforce data, achieving up to 5 minutes data latency. Scalability is a traditional issue when ingesting large data volumes of Salesforce data simply due to API limits. But because we are able to reuse data that has already been extracted for backups through finely tuned delta extracts, our architecture is uniquely designed to address the huge data volumes of financial service companies. Now, this high-speed capability is essential because your agentic AI models need the latest context for accuracy and precision. So, what we're doing is ensuring security and governance by giving you absolute control over your customer data. This includes end-to-end encryption, data anonymization before the data fuels AI and analytics, so ensuring your data remains compliant. Through zero copy capabilities, you can copy once and reuse everywhere across data and AI platforms without creating new, ungoverned data silos. And finally, the solution is affordable and managed. You get data products delivered with zero maintenance and zero ETL, which cuts down on complex, expensive, and fragile data pipelines. We're effectively making Salesforce data a first-class citizen for AI and ML. Instead of volatile consumption-based pricing that spikes your bill, our model offers predictable cost, with one fixed fee activating your entire Salesforce scope. So this managed, predictable approach simplifies your data strategy and future-proofs your investment. Let's see this in action in a large US-based insurance company that needed to decommission legacy applications. However, part of this data in those legacy applications ultimately had to be archived as part of a data retention strategy or because they were still under legal hold. They had used a combination of our previously mentioned data archiving solutions and zero copy data sharing to solve this. Using archiving, they could ingest the legacy data into our secured Otis 7 vault, but they also wanted to access this data from their new data lakehouse. So by copying that data again into that data lake, that wasn't an option for compliance reasons. So rather, what they did with Otis 7 is expose those archives to the Snowflake platform using a zero copy approach. Their legal team could now easily run complex e-discovery queries against years of historical data as if the data was stored in their own data lakehouse. Now, ultimately, they achieved cost savings by decommissioning the legacy apps, achieved legal compliance, and unlocked that data for rich analytics, all without a single ETL pipeline or data migration project. And finally, let's look at this last use case where what happens when you solve the problem of data velocity at a global scale. We worked with one of the largest banks in the world to solve their data fragmentation problem. So they ran over dozens, or I should say, they still do run over dozens of Salesforce orgs globally. Now, if leadership wanted a report on total customer exposure, it would take team of analysts months to pull the data get together. And in those most critical moments when customer service needed to inform a very important customer during an online call about their overall contract status, it would take them minutes at a time to pull that information. With Oda Seva, we allow you to create a single customer view across orgs and to query that unified data in real time using a highly secured data lake and real-time data caching techniques. What used to be a highly complex integration project due to large data volumes, data unification, and API performance limits became a reality in just a matter of weeks with our team. Now, they can see risks and opportunities across the entire globe in a matter of seconds and answer to their most complex customer service requests in real time, which is an ultimate competitive advantage in financial services. Jam, you want to wrap us up? Sorry, Jam, I think you're on mute.
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. It's time to wrap up, I believe. So we feel that the financial service data imperative boils down to this. There's no way to innovate if you are constantly worried about failing an audit or losing back data to a breach. It all starts by setting the data protection for protection, resilience, security, and compliance. But what we wanted to pinpoint in this webinar also is that those data foundation are also the starting point to build the runway for the AI-driven bank of tomorrow. I hope that John and I, during this webinar, illustrated the fact that Odaceva is your ideal partner to ensure that foundation is rock solid and future-proof in the age of AI. So thanks a lot for your time today. We've covered a lot of ground from DORA compliance to zero trust architecture, AI acceleration. And at this point, we'd love to take you to questions. John, are you seeing already some question in the chat?
Let's check that out. So it looks like we've got one here. You mentioned Dora a couple of times during your presentation. How can Odaceva help to enforce Dora compliance?
Yes, I mentioned the core capabilities of the platform in the DORA context. And this includes independence from Salesforce, comprehensive data restoration capabilities as the law mandates to have regular restore tests, monitoring and adaptability to Salesforce ongoing change, and security and compliance with top security standards. But maybe what I want to add is our services expertise. So our service team is composed of Salesforce experts, and they know the financial service regulation and can help you to discover and assess your environments against the DORA requirements. It's about designing and planning your operational resilience roadmap. And even more importantly, in the DORA context, what we did is we packaged our offering for managing the restore assessment and the restore tests. And generally, what we found is that our services are used not only as implementation accelerator, but it's also as a way to equip internal teams to run autonomously their roadmap going forward. So as an example, I took this APAC bank. So they didn't use our services for CPS 2030 because they were mature enough to do it autonomously.
Wow, that's great. It looks like we've got another question in the chat. Yeah, could you tell more about your data traceability capability and how it differentiates with Salesforce field history? JM, I'll take this one if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a great question. And ultimately, Odaseva's data trail allows you to audit every facet of your data history. So you could track inserts, field updates, and deletions for up to 100 objects. Now, Salesforce Field History Tracking and Field Audit Trail, which is included with Shield, they offer some visibility, but ultimately they restrict the number and types of fields tracked and do not keep transaction details after a record is deleted, which ultimately can be an issue for regulatory compliance. They lack user-friendly search and rollback capabilities on top of that. Even more important, it requires to store your entire data history in the Salesforce database. In our experience, that doesn't meet the large data volume requirements of financial institutions. Meanwhile, with Otiseva Data Trail, we can track up to 800 fields per object with full complete audit trails built into that visibility. So we know a lot of our financial services customers absolutely love that built-in functionality to our backup and restore. Now, it doesn't look like we have any additional questions from the chat. I'll pause a moment just to make sure that there's nothing last minute coming in. But if not, on behalf of Otiseva, both JM and myself, we would love to thank you for viewing our webinar, attending today, signing up. If you signed up, you didn't have a chance to attend today, don't worry. We will be emailing out a recording of this webinar, and hopefully we could see you on some future ones. Um, JM, any closing remarks from your end?
No, it was really cool to organize this webinar and to go across all our capabilities for the industry. So it was a pleasure to organize that and to do it with you, John.
Yes, I agree. It was great working with you. Great providing the insights to our customers and prospects out there. If you have any questions about Otiseva and how we can help out your organization, please feel free to reach out and look out for that recording in your emails soon. Thanks a lot, everyone. Enjoy your day.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.